Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. So it's been over a year since I first started watching Given on my old channel, and it's been over a year nearly since the movie came out, and the show is still pretty fresh in my mind. So when I heard that there was a live action miniseries coming out, it was a given that I was going to watch it. But I'll be honest, I was both excited but also pretty anxious, especially with live action adaptations of series. It's just not something I'm as familiar with. So going into a 6-episode miniseries about Given, I had trepidation to say the least. But was it worth it? Well, that's what this episode of 10 Under 10 is to find out. So on today's episode of 10 Under 10, we're going to talk about my top 10 thoughts about Given the live action drama. Now, please note there will be spoilers to the anime and the manga and obviously the live action drama. And there's going to be a little bit of ranting too, so I hope y'all are okay with that. But with that being said, let's start out with this list with number 10, condensing 11 episodes into 6. I'm sure that the miniseries was only given so many episodes to work with, and so basically what they did was cut down 11 episodes into covering the events of episodes 1 through 9 of the series within 6 episodes. So a lot of the more repetitive or loose threads that weren't exactly integral to the plot have been dropped, which is okay and a concise way of doing things. But I'm honestly a little bit disappointed with it, especially because some of my favorite moments of the series happen post episode 9 and post concert, specifically with Uenoyama and Mafia getting closer in their relationship, with the confession by the river. There's a lot of scenes that they just never get to, and it just kind of ends with the aftermath of the concert. But we'll talk more about that later. Number 9, there is a lot of staring. So I'll be the first to admit that there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of staring in this miniseries. And I am not privy to Japanese dramas at all to know if this is a trope that happens in a lot of Japanese dramas, but it was extremely noticeable, especially as a foreign audience member. So the anime does have quiet moments, obviously, and maybe this series is trying to mimic those quiet moments, but the thing is, in the anime, those quiet moments have expressive emotional range with the characters' faces. It has gestures, it has internal monologues. There's other things happening in the episode that keeps it from being dull. And honestly, at some points in this series, the staring gets a little bit uncomfortable. Not enough to make me want to not watch future episodes, but it is noticeable, and so it's worth being called out here. But that's enough talking about that. Let's talk about some good things with the series, starting with number 8. Uenoyama's actor is very good. So Jin Suzuki plays Uenoyama, and he's honestly one of the best things about this series. I absolutely love him in this role. He has this perfect embodiment of raw teenage energy, but also has this kind of vulnerability to him that Uenoyama has, especially when he's around Mafia. He is easily one of the best actors in the series, and he just does a really good job of conveying Uenoyama's overall anxiety and gay panic as he starts to realize his feelings for Mafia as they come to surface in the series. Speaking of good actors particularly, let's talk about Hiiragi, number 7. So I'm frustrated that Shizusumi is not in this series because I really wanted to see him paired up with Hiiragi. Hiiragi is played by So Okuno, and he is this perfect blend of princess and brat as he plays Mafia's childhood friend and the band member Mafia's ex-boyfriend Yuki. He's fiery, he's sympathetic, he's basically the best actor in this series next to Uenoyama's actor, and does a really good job of portraying Hiragi's character. I really liked him in this series. He was worth watching just for him. Give him a spinoff. He needs it now. Number 6. Haruki and Akihiko are same sides of the same coin. So the problem with Akihiko and Haruki for me in this series is that neither of them really totally look the part of the characters. Haruki has like the long hair and the fashion, and Akihiko kind of has the same look, but neither of them really look the part of their characters. But they're distinct enough and their acting embodies the personality of the characters enough that you know it's Akihiko and Haruki, but it's just never fully there. It's a shame because then you see pictures of the stage play actors who look so much the part, and we'll talk about the stage play later in this video, that it's a shame because I wanted more flirting between the two characters and I wanted them to seem more dynamic and like Akihiko and Haruki, but they just don't quite get there. They're distinct enough and you know it's them, and they do an okay job, but it's just not quite there enough. Number 5, Ugetsu and Yuki are there, again, just not enough. I think Yuinaba looks the part of Akihiko's violin playing ex. He's just not present enough in the series, which is a real shame because in episode 5 of the anime, that scene where he pops up next to Akihiko, it still gets like a little gasp out of me each time I watch it. It's so surprising. I never see it coming. But that scene's not in the live action miniseries, so it's a real shame. Ugetsu's just kind of there, and you get that he's Akihiko's ex, but that's pretty much it. And then Yuki is played by Akira Onodera, and if anyone is miscast in this series, it's him as Yuki. When I think of Yuki in the anime, I think of him as dominant and brooding and this larger-than-life figure that stands so tall next to Mafia. And unfortunately for Akira, he just comes across as so much more frail and delicate in this series than I really expected. There's a part of him that is dark and edgy, and you can kind of get to see sort of Yuki's mentality as the character a little bit more through his portrayal, but it's just not dominant and brooding enough to really capture the essence of what Yuki is in the anime or the manga, which is a shame. And then, speaking of a shame, number 4, then there's Mafia. While I'm here, we need to talk about Mafia. I become torn because there are moments when Sanari, who, full disclosure, until I was researching the actors for this series, did not know he was an actual Japanese singer. There are moments when Sanari does capture the slightly more edgy and dominant personalities of Mafia that can come out. Particularly, I'm thinking of in episodes 5 towards the end and in the beginning of episode 6, when Mafia tells Uenoyama that he's disappointed that he doesn't have faith in him, and there's the "what a letdown" line. It's very effective. But then in other instances, he's just not innocent enough or as charming enough, I think, to really capture that essence of Mafia that in the manga and anime we really grow to love with his character, which is a real shame. Speaking of Sanari, we need to talk about this. Number 3. The music of sentimental, if I could ever get that band name right, is missing. So when I found out that Sanari was a singer, I wanted to actually hear some of his songs, and I listened to them, and they are fine. But the thing about them is that Sanari's voice in a lot of those songs is auto-tuned. In a lot of his songs, it's auto-tuned. Maybe not all of them, but in most of the popular ones that came up, they were auto-tuned. And here's the thing. Shogo Yano, who is the lead singer of Sentimental, who is the band that does the music for Given, his voice is not auto-tuned. It is raw, it is beautiful, it is full of passion and emotion, and it captures that sensuality and emotionality that Mafia has going into the concert to finally express his feelings as he struggled through his ex-boyfriend's death through most of the series. And you just don't get that with Sanari. And in fact, they don't even show Fuyu no Hanashi. They don't even play the original song. They make up an entirely new song that I'm assuming is more within Sanari's range. I'm just saying. It's fine, but I just wonder if Sanari would actually have been able to do the original song justice, and maybe that's why they changed it, but it not being present in the climax is a pretty big deal to me. Speaking of which, number 2, the climax of the series. The climax of the series is where Mafia, who has been struggling to communicate this entire time, is finally able to express himself. And it's fine, but in the anime and in the manga, during the song that he sings, we get to flash back between him and Yuki. We get to see their childhood together. We get to see Mafia struggle with his father and abuse. We get to struggle how it brought him and Yuki closer, the intimate moments between them. And while we do get a few of the intimate moments between him and Yuki, we just don't get to see enough of that flashback to really drive home how impactful the death of Yuki actually was. And that's a real shame. However, I will give the climax a caveat. And again, this goes back to Uenoyama's actor because he's really pulling all the stops out in this series for me. But he does do this really nice little cup of the chin thing with Mafia when he brings him in for a much slower, more delicate, intimate kiss at the end of the live action miniseries that I actually really liked quite a lot. And that moment was really great. I liked it a lot. But especially when you consider the fact that this is the final episode and we don't get any of those other resolving episodes afterwards or those other moments, it was a nice moment between him and Uenoyama at the end, but just not enough for me to really solidify it above the anime or the manga. So that leads us back to number 1. Should you watch it? It's hard because any press forgiven is good press, right? But the thing of it is, if this series can serve as anything, it should serve as this. Go watch the anime. Go read the manga. This series is great if you've seen the manga, if you've read the manga, or if you watched the anime. This series is a nice follow-up. It's an extra adaptation, but it just doesn't quite capture the character development, the plot, or the essence of the series that the other previous adaptations have. And now that I know that there's a stage play, it looks amazing. It's 2 hours long. It's going to cover volumes 1 through 5, have the original songs in it. It made me question, why was this live action series even made? Why can't I just get a Blu-ray of the stage play? Which I still want, if it's possible. But the whole time I was researching this and realizing there's a stage play, I was like, I just want to see it instead of watching the live action. So overall, if you're a Given fan, this is a nice adaptation, but make sure it's not the first adaptation that you watch, especially if you're new to the series. So yeah, that's my 10 under 10. Barely cutting it under 10 on that one. But I hope you all enjoyed this edition of 10 under 10. Let me know your comments down below if you did like the live action series. There are lots of parts of it that I did like, but there were a lot that was left to be desired that I think didn't quite live up to the other adaptation standards. But again, I'm a big Given fan, so I'm a pretty harsh critic to begin with. So in any case, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for commenting. Thank you so much for watching. And also, I hope you all enjoy the other Given content that I have coming out this month and in months to come. So in the meantime, have a wonderful week. Stay safe, take care, and I hope I see you all soon with more reactions. Bye.